You're listening to the Anxious Scholar Podcast, a podcast for anxious scholars. If you're a high school student who can't wait to go to university, but also is kind of overwhelmed with lots of unanswered questions like me, then you've definitely come to the right place. On this podcast, I sit down with EGEM alumni while they share valuable advice from this exciting journey of theirs that we have yet to take. I really hope you'll enjoy this episode and learn lots of useful information about the college application process, unis, and higher education in general. Hello, Valentina.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. I was wondering if we could start by saying a few words about yourself, where you were born, what languages you speak, what higher levels you took in high school, and what your current academic or professional situation is.
Okay, so my name is Valentina. I was born in Italy, more specifically at Lake Maggiore, which is next to Lake of Como. I speak English, Italian, and French fluently, and then Spanish thanks to school. I took IB, and my high levels were biology, visual arts, and English language and literature. And then, so now I'm currently studying an undergraduate degree in the Bachelor's of Sciences.
Well, thank you for this introduction. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about this program that you just started, the Bachelor of Science at UCL. What made you want to take it? What courses it consists of?
So I took a Bachelor's of Science, more specifically my course is Human Sciences. I decided on UCL specifically because my course is led by two departments, the Department of Anthropology and the Department of Biosciences and Medicine. And since the Life Science and Medicine are ranked 8th in the world and the Anthropology Department 4th in the world, I thought it was a wise choice to pick UCL.
Okay. And did you apply through the UCAS program or did you apply individually to the universities?
I applied via UCAS, yes.
And in the UK, what other universities you were considering applying to?
So my first choice was Oxford. I did apply for Oxford for the same course, Human Sciences. Then UCL was my second choice. Then it was Durham University. And then I picked Queen Mary and Manchester University.
And if you don't mind saying, which ones were you accepted to?
I wasn't accepted to Oxford. I was accepted to everything else except Manchester University.
And did you apply for the same program overall? Or, for example, did you find it challenging to apply for the same programs to include in your personal statement?
Yes, personally for me, because the way Human Sciences is constructed makes it very hard for universities to name it, and so I had to look into the different universities' websites in order to find what closely related to human sciences, because Oxford was the only one, along with UCL, that actually named their course Human Sciences.
And do you have some advice for students writing their personal statement, some aspects to emphasize, highlight, and advice on how to combine those different subjects that they want to study into one personal statement?
So what I did personally was I looked into the course and the resume of the course in each university's websites, and I picked out keywords that they used and then tried to implement that in my personal statement so that the admissions team were able to find the link between my personal statement and their own course.
And were there any other requirements for UCL, for example, like interviews, like on Oxford, there's 2 rounds of interviews, or maybe additional assignments, essays?
So for Oxford Human Sciences, they needed you to do the TSA, so one of the admissions tests. Then for UCL, there wasn't anything for me anyway. They do have entry requirements, obviously. For subject requirements, they highly recommend biology. However, you can pick any other science. However, after looking at what we've been doing currently, I highly recommend biology as well.
And to go back to the thinking skills assessment, the TSA at Oxford, When did you start preparing for it? How did you do it? And do you have some advice on how to prepare for it?
So for the TSA, I started in, I would say, June, and then worked and revised for it during the whole summer until the TSA exam. I personally revised by myself, but maybe students might find it easier to find someone who can help them with the TSA, because I found it quite tricky.
And did you find it worked out well for you?
It was okay. It wasn't good enough, I don't think, for Oxford, but it was in the okay boundary.
And did you apply to universities in other countries?
I did not. At the beginning, I did think of applying to Italy, for example, but I never continued on that route. I just stuck with the UK.
And back in high school, when did you start thinking or preparing for, like your college applications, just thinking about higher education in general?
So because I wanted to apply to Oxbridge, I was told to start quite early on. So my first meeting was in early February in Première. And from that, because I wanted to apply to Oxbridge, I would have weekly meetings with my university advisor.
And in terms of like academic requirements, does UCL have like a minimum that you have to reach in order to apply or get considered in your application? And if, for example, you don't mind sharing what was yours, like your point average?
So the UCL wanted 38 out of 45, and they wanted 18 in total and higher level. At least a 6 in biology, and no higher level less than 5. This is for IB. And so I reached those requirements perfectly. And yeah.
And you mentioned how it's out of 45, so this is like the IB scoring. Could you tell us a little bit more about how it works, what kind of exams are considered in the application, or if it's just like your average throughout the year, or if it's like the higher level exams that you did at the end?
It is, so for IB you have the predicted grades as well as your final exam grades. So your predicted grades are what go to the university, and that's when the university decides whether you are accepted or not. So normally these are done by the university advisors. They predict a certain grade for you early on in the year, quite early on. And then when you receive your results is when you actually know if you're going or not, which is unlike the US, where if you're taken, that's it, you're done. That's not the case for the UK.
It goes on until the end of
exactly,
the year.
Yes.
Suspense. Yeah. So to talk more about the international baccalaureate system, because in École du Manuel, in around troisième, so freshman year, we get to choose between the French International Baccalaureate with the American section, or between the International Baccalaureate, which is the one that you took, and that is just as an information, is taken by more than 5,000 schools around the world, and it's the path that you took, that your brother also in my grade took, and so I imagine you kind of have a comprehensive understanding of how the system works. So I was wondering if you could tell us more about what it is. So, for example, why you chose it, and what are kind of the specificities of it?
So I chose the IB mainly because I've been in other international schools as well. So I've been studying in English basically my whole life, and also because I'm English. So more as my parents have always, told me I would do the IB anyway, and in my mind I was always doing the IB. And so the IB consists of taking 6 subjects. So normally it's 3 at higher level, so the ones that there are more content and more hours are spent on it, and then 3 standard level subjects. With this, so this takes up 42 points, so it's graded out of 7. And then you have the extended essay, which is a 4,000 word essay, as well as a TOK essay that provide you with bonus points, so it's up to 3 bonus points. And that's how you get 45.
And you still get the same amount of points for your standard levels as higher levels? You just don't have the same amount of class time for it?
Exactly.
Okay. And would you say I know it's maybe hard to compare with the BFI or OEB, so the French International Baccalaureates. Would you say there's more like independent work in IB, more writing maybe? You mentioned like the essays, the extended essays that you have 2 years to complete.
So yes, I do highly believe that there is a lot more independent work and coursework to do. And as they say, IB prepares you for university, and I really do think, because looking at other people who take different baccalaureates, I guess, like A-levels, you can see the difference between them. I am very capable of doing work by myself, doing coursework by myself, or even just citing really simply. Like, I really know how to cite properly. Some students come into university, they have no idea what citing is, how to cite. So I do think IB is quite good in terms of preparing you for university.
And you mentioned how for the IB, your higher levels were biology, visual arts, and English literature. What made you want to take those?
So I love biology to begin with, so that's why I picked biology. Then I wanted at some point to go into law, and that's why I picked an essay-based subject. And since I was interested more in English language and literature, so I chose that one instead, because it looks more into other content instead of just books. So it can be scripts, films, comics, things like that. And then I picked visual arts as a fill-in subject mostly, but also because I really like art, and I guess I'm quite good at it, so I picked visual arts as well.
And you wouldn't think that, for example, people who say that it's better to take kind of the same oriented in the same kind of discipline subjects, like for example chemistry, physics, math, and biology, purely scientific, whereas here there's like a clear combination of like humanitarian and scientific. You don't think this was a problem or an issue for the UK universities?
Yeah, so I did have just a slight issue because I didn't pick chemistry, but at the very beginning I knew I didn't feel confident in that subject, so I didn't pick it. I picked something that I was confident in and that I actually enjoyed, and I think that helped me a lot. So it really depends if students really know. I personally didn't really know what I wanted to do yet, so I kept my options quite open, but at the same time specific enough that universities can accept me. Yeah.
You were able to explain your choices and the thought process behind it?
Yes.
And for example, you don't think that math was either an issue?
No, math was definitely not an issue.
And to talk more about your experience in EGM and the activities that you have done in addition to school, for example, you were the board member of COED. Could you tell us a little bit more about this organization and your role as its board member?
So COED, as I guess most people know, is a non-profit organization run by students, and it's there to help students as well as adults in and outside of school when it comes to education. And so I joined COED in early seconde as a tutoring organizer, so I would pair up the tutees and the tutors for that. And by the end of seconde, I was put as a board member in administration, and more specifically, I looked after the tutoring, as well as communication and human sciences.
And you also had professional experiences, such as, for example, in your internships, you volunteered at a medical cabinet back in high school, if I'm not mistaken. And I know how you mentioned you once wanted to do law. Also, you were considering this. Were you considering studying medicine back then?
Not specifically medicine, but since I really like the medical area, I had envisioned to kind of study and become a medical lawyer, so one who works with medical malpractice and the rights of patients in the medical field. So I wanted to try and see and take a step into this domain, and yeah. So for now, I'm not quite sure yet if that's still something I want to do, hence human sciences.
And you can clearly understand how, like in such a career, it would be beneficial to have a background in biology and science, and as well as a humanitarian understanding and education. And you have also done summer programs in Italy. several times in the Istituto Il David in Florence. What did you find was beneficial in these experiences?
So I was in Florence last summer and this summer, and what I did was I studied half a day in the morning, and then in the afternoon I had the ability to go around Florence and explore Florence. And this was quite beneficial to me because I was yet to explore this city in Italy. Even though I am Italian, I still have places to explore there. And so it helped me experience a new culture, new food, people, just the environment in general, even the architecture, as well as learning and perfecting my Italian, because that's why I was there. So I do think it's an opportunity for me and other students to experience a new life, if you could say that.
Outside of school, the school year.
Yeah.
And now you've been at UCL in London for a month now, exactly. What are your impressions of the school? How would you describe the environment? Are you liking it here in such a big city and big university?
Yeah, so for now, I enjoy UCL. I also enjoy the people that I've met already. My flatmates are now basically my friends. They're just incredible. And yeah, I also meet up regularly with my GM friends as well, because many also come either to UCL or other universities in London or just around the UK.
And in terms of, for example, the workload also in the new university, is there a lot of hours of like lectures, of independent work? Do you have a lot of different courses, or is it more, I don't know, like restricted to a few in the beginning?
So for me personally, right now I have 4 modules and it's around 6 hours a week. So it's not that much for me. I've been told that it's very normal for me first term that I don't have that much. It starts to pick up the pace in second term, third term, as well as second and third year. And it's mostly because in first year we are given a basic knowledge of the basic knowledge of humans, and just having basic knowledge in every single module. So cell molecular biology, bioanthropology, for example, and anatomy and development, because there are some students who haven't taken biology, so they need a basic as well, basic knowledge of that. And then as the years progress, we start deciding and picking our own modules along the way. These can include anatomy and development as well, embryology, the nervous system, drugs in the mind, for example. Those are more optional modules. And then we also have compulsory modules along the way, which include statistics, as well as our human science seminar project. And when you put these two together, you kind of create your own degree. You can pick what you want, what you're interested in. So you can go all the way to more scientific, or you can go to more the humanities, social sciences as well.
And still graduate with the Bachelor of Science?
With a Bachelor's of Science, yes.
And for some subjects, would you sometimes need like additional courses in, for example, chemistry, like kind of compulsory courses in order to get it?
Yes, sometimes yes. In order to take, for example, courses in the third year, so modules in the third year, you need to take specific modules in the second year. But yeah.
So you still have time to specialize. You're
just
starting.
Yes.
And I think it's too early to even maybe think about like masters or after. But I did want to ask you, even if you don't have an idea, what would be like your dream job?
So I'm not 100% sure yet, but as I said, I'm still interested in the medical field and medical malpractice. So hopefully I'll continue on in this section.
Fingers crossed. And out of all your years at EGM, at École Emmanuel in our high school, who was your favorite teacher?
So I did have some wonderful teachers along the way, but I think the one that struck me the most was Miss Honeywell. So she was my English teacher for language and literature. And I think just the way that she taught the class, that she interacted with the students and made students interact with each other was just incredible. I really enjoyed her classes.
Do you have a piece of advice you would give to graduating students of EGM, like seniors that are embarking on this new journey?
So for the people who are in the same shoes as me or are going to be, I think something very important to remember is to not stress. University is really, really fun. You get to meet new people, you get to be in a new environment, and yeah, I think it's a time where you should be enjoying what you're doing in your course as well as in your personal life.
Would you say you have stressed in high school about applying, have maybe been overwhelmed at times?
Yes, of course. Obviously, everyone will, and everyone has, because of our own coursework that we have on the side, activities, and then we have university admissions. I think yes.
And last question, what does success mean to you?
So success, I think, is something very personal to everyone. But for now, at a young age, I think success to me would be the ability to be happy with what you're doing, with your personal life, with just everything around you. So that's what I think success is for now.
Thank you very much, Valentina. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in on this episode of the Anxious Scholar podcast. See you in 2 weeks for the next interview, and don't miss out on any additional information on our Instagram @The Anxious Scholar.